Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here to do the Avengers book tag. This tag was originally created by Kristen over at Super Space Chick. I will of course link her original video down below, and I was tagged by the fabulous Annie from Annie the Booktuber, and I will also link her channel down below. Annie actually decided to do this tag as kind of a tribute to Stan Lee, who passed away very recently, which I think is such a wonderful and lovely idea, so thank you so much Annie for tagging me. Number 1. Iron Man or Tony Stark, a book that made you laugh out loud. And I'm gonna go with Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and pretty much I'm talking about Light Song. All of his interactions with people, especially with Blushweaver, she was really funny too. Just all of their conversations were so hilarious. And it's actually pretty difficult to make me laugh out loud while I'm reading a book, but like that actually did happen with this one. I just feel like the sense of humor really worked for me. It's kind of the perfect blend of like really clever wordplay and just like stupid jokes, and I guess that's kind of my thing. Number 2, Captain America or Steve Rogers, a book that sends a positive message. I just realized I should be wearing my Captain America t-shirt for this. Why didn't I plan that? But for the answer, I'm going to go with Becoming Naomi Leon by Pam Munoz Ryan. I just feel like this middle grade book really handles a lot of heavy issues like domestic violence or alcoholism, and even just things like how a family unit doesn't always look the same for everybody. And I just really love this book, and I think the positive message it sends is really about finding your own voice and using that to stand up for people you love, and just finding courage in places you don't expect it. Like that's something that Naomi definitely grows with and learns to do throughout the book, and just you want to stand up and cheer for her, I think. At least I did. Number 3, Black Widow or Natasha Romanoff, a book with a kick-butt female protagonist. I'm going with Dark Triumph by Robin LaFavors, and the main character I'm talking about specifically is Sibella. She is so fantastic. I feel like she's much more literally kick-ass than characters I tend to enjoy, because she is actually trained as an assassin and she's very skilled at those abilities. I tend not to gravitate towards characters who have that kind of like obvious physical strength, but I think in Sibella's case, the reason I love her and connect to her so much is because she does have that outward strength, but a lot of her character growth and her discovery is about learning that she has internal strength as well. Like she's not just a weapon, you know, and really seeing her accept that and use that to help people and help herself, I just think is a really fantastic journey. There are quite a few trigger warnings for this one in particular, which I will list in the description box. This book is well worth the read if you can handle it, and I think Sibella is just a fantastically complex character. Number 4, Hawkeye or Clint Barton, an underrated book you wish more people would pay attention to. And I love this question because I am all about finding underhyped books, you know, like kind of hidden gems in the booktube world. And I'm going with The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This is a really fantastic kind of, I guess, political fantasy, but I think if you don't tend to enjoy those, you could still enjoy this book. It's about a young poor boy who kind of gets swept up in this academy that's basically training a boy to pose as the lost heir for a kingdom, because the person running the school knows that the prince is dead, but he decides that he's gonna fake, sort of like an Anastasia thing, I guess, in some versions of that story. He's going to fake the return of this prince, and he's looking for a reasonable kind of facsimile, and you see these boys pitted against each other, and it gets really cutthroat. Like this is a really dark book considering it is a middle grade, and I actually think that this would be a really great book for readers who primarily read YA, who are maybe trying to dip their toes into middle grade, because even though the age of the main character is closer to the middle grade range, I think that there's a lot of crossover appeal because the way he sees the world, and he's pretty jaded. Sage, the main character, is very jaded, and I think that because of all the hardship he's gone through, he reads older, and I really want to continue on with the trilogy, but this book I can recommend wholeheartedly. Number 5, Hulk or Bruce Banner, a book that made you incredibly angry. And I really could have gone with any of the last 4 books I talked about in my least favorite books of 2018 video, because those were all ones that really did make me angry for one reason or another, but I'm specifically going to pick The Hollow Kingdom by Claire B. Dunkel, because that's one where I went in expecting to love it, and it was one of the most toxic and unpleasant relationships and experiences like reading that book that I've ever come across, because I feel like this book is almost dangerous in the way it romanticizes this really toxic, abusive relationship, and I just see it on so many best of lists, and it just really didn't work for me. Number 6, Thor, a book with a character whose strength you admired. I'm going with Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. You might recognize this as one of my favorite books of the year, and I realized that every time I talked about how much I loved our main character Mare, I didn't actually say anything about her and about why I loved her. So the reason I admire her strength so much is because she's in these really difficult circumstances, like right from the beginning of the book. She's in a very precarious position in her country, but she also realizes that in a lot of ways she's lucky, and she recognizes that and appreciates that while still acknowledging that there are a lot of things about her situation that are unsafe or that are bad. And I really like that. That felt very realistic to me, you know, that you can be, and you can know that you're luckier than other people and still go through a lot of hardship. Another thing I loved about Mare is that even though she is very strong, she makes hard decisions. She's incredibly brave in circumstances that are very negative and dangerous. Something I love about her is that she does still feel things, like she does still react. Like we see her cry or kind of despair a little bit. And well, that's not like pleasant. It's not like, oh, I enjoy seeing her suffer. It is kind of nice to see a main character, especially a female main character, who is so strong, who is so courageous, and who still feels things very deeply, and I really love that about her. And finally, number 7 is a bonus question, and that is Loki, a book with a surprise or twist that tricked you. Now, I've mentioned before on this channel several times that I am pretty good, I'm actually very good at predicting plot twists in books, so when that doesn't happen, it's pretty impressive and I tend to really remember it and enjoy it. And so the one I chose for this is Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. Again, this was a book I talked about recently in my most surprising books of the year, but I loved this book so much. And the reason this book surprised me wasn't so much because of a plot twist, as much as the book went in a direction I didn't anticipate, and that I loved, and that I thought added so much depth to the story. And as soon as we got to that point in the book, I was like, oh my god, like this makes so much sense, and it really just brought the story to a whole nother level. I had heard people talk about this book, I'd heard the synopsis for it so many times, and even though the synopsis is true, I don't think it's a very good indication of the main story or the main feeling of the story. And I think that's why I didn't pick it up for so long, is because it didn't sound like something I would necessarily enjoy, but I ended up loving it, and Anna Marie McLemore is now like an auto-buy author for me. Okay everybody, so that was the Marvel Avengers book tag. I will definitely tag a few people in the description box below, so please check that out. And of course, if you would like to do this tag, feel free to do it. Thank you again so much, Annie, for tagging me. I will see you guys soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!